So a little bit ago, I made a video talking about the top 10 players in the world currently, and some people actually got confused by that. They thought that was a top 10 players of all time list. No, that was just in the world at this moment. So I thought that I would make, going into spring series, a top 10 most mechanical players in the world, because some of you guys really wanted a different top 10 list, and you guys are throwing some ideas out in the comments, and I kind of like this one. So this is just going to be who I think are the most mechanically gifted players in the world at the moment. And now, obviously, unlike my last video, which was backed up by just raw stats, this is a little bit more subjective. You can easily make a case for... I believe that the players that I chose, you can easily argue that they're in the top 10, but as to what spot, that probably will vary from person to person. So I just want to throw that out there, because there really is no raw stat that you can look at and say, all right, this guy's mechanically gifted. No, it's really about their performance on the field, and that's what I'm going off of. And basically just who impressed me the most throughout the season in terms of just mechanics that they pull off. And as always, if you guys do enjoy, hit subscribe and let's get right into it. So for my number 10, who I believe is the number 10 most mechanically gifted player in the world, I put Scrub Killa, who... He had a bit of an off season. I honestly would have put him way higher if this was season 8. But definitely some struggles with his new team that he was on Maus. And then towards the end of the season, he didn't even play due to issues with his contract. But at the end of the day, he still was just one of the most mechanically gifted players and one of the best players in Europe altogether. Especially back when he was on Vitality, he was the playmaker. He was off the ceiling, passing the K-Dop and Fairy Peak, and just basically all around on the pitch, just getting stuff done, and he was just scary to go up against. A lot of people argued that the only reason he was as good as he was because he had good teammates to back him up, but I believe that in his own rights, he's a great player, so I think he deserves to be on the list, despite the fact that he didn't have the greatest season in Season 9. And then for my number 9th player, I have First Killer. Now, again, another player who, right when the season started, there was a lot of hype surrounding this player, a lot of high expectations. In terms of 1v1s, he just had the best 1v1 mechanics in the world coming into RLCS Season 9. And a lot of people thought that maybe that since he had those brilliant mechanics, that would translate into RLCS 3v3 gameplay. Rogue obviously didn't have the season they were looking for either. It was just a bit of a lackluster season. But from time to time, First Killer definitely showed that he had the ability to just outplay everyone on the field at once. There were many times on the field where First Killer was easily the fastest one. He would always beat his opponents to the ball. The real problem with Rogue honestly wasn't their mechanical ability, it was just their team play. So I think that in terms of just raw mechanics, First Killer definitely deserves to be on this list, because as we've seen from watching him, he really does have the ability to go above and beyond with his air dribbles, his touches on the ball to get around his opponents. And then number 8, I put Squishy Muffins, who you guys could see kind of a theme here. The ones who didn't have maybe the greatest season are towards the bottom. But I think Squishy was all around the one who held Cloud9 together throughout the whole season, even while they weren't playing so well. I think that in the early stages of Season 9, when Cloud9 were triple committing and not defending their backboard ever, Squishy Muffins was probably the only one making plays and scoring the ball, although there weren't that many goals to begin with. But I think that Squishy Muffins actually, you can make a case for being the most consistent player on Cloud9, as well as the most mechanically gifted player. Squishy Muffins, even when his team wasn't doing so hot, he still was pulling off plays and trying to make things happen. Even when his team was at their lowest, he was still able to pull off some pretty nuts stuff. So I think that with that said, he deserves a spot on the list, because not a lot of players could stay in a good mental mindset to pull off just such mechanically gifted plays, especially when they're doing so poorly. And then next up at number 7, I think a lot of people would also have him on here. I put Arju. I mean, Arju is the guy who came out of nowhere. Arju is the guy who everyone thought was just a sub, and Mouse Sports weren't going to do so great now that Scrub Killa was gone. But when Arju came in, not only did he click in terms of team chemistry, but that man was getting touches that, I mean, you'd see top level mechanical players get. We're talking about people like Justin, Alpha, Astral, all those guys. He was making some insane touches on the ball, insane outplays, and he was just a sub. What's crazy is Arju hasn't even been in RLCS for a full season, and he's already pulling stuff off like that. And I don't want to say he carried Mouse, because I think they all played extremely well, but he was easily one of the main reasons that they finished top 4 in Europe. And I can't give enough credit to Arju for just how well he played altogether, and just how much he surprised everyone as a whole. And I really, really can't wait to see how he does in Spring Series and in the next seasons of RLCS. And then at number 6, I have Justin of NRG. Justin, I'd say he's the most inconsistent of these top level players that I'm putting on here. It's just that the reason I have him a little higher on my list than, let's say, First Killer or Squishy is because when Justin was on, he looked like one of the best mechanical players in the world. It's just, is Justin going to be on today? That was the big question going on throughout NRG's league play in Season 9. But when Justin was on, man, he would be going for double flip resets, air dribbles that would be touching the ceiling shots, just anything you could think of, Justin would be going for. And the reason he would be going for it is because he, in my opinion, is one of the most comfortable players in the world mechanically. He just is so fluid when he's on with the ball, and he just looks so clean in the air that I don't think anybody would argue him being on this list. In fact, I bet some people would have him higher. I just don't have him as high because he did show a lot of inconsistency, especially this season. So I couldn't put him quite up there with the best of the best. And then we have Alpha 54 from Vitality, who, I mean, let's be honest, he probably has the best mechanics on Vitality, even though every single player on Vitality has a very, very solid mechanics. The thing that separates Alpha 54 from, let's say, KDOP and Fairy Peak is that KDOP and Fairy Peak have a mastery of their basic level mechanics, while Alpha 54 not only has mastered basic mechanics, but his high level mechanics take Vitality to a new level. And to be honest, that's exactly what they brought in Alpha 54 to do. They brought him in to do the air dribbles, the flip resets, the ceiling shots, get the ball in a position for them to score, for KDOP and Fairy Peak to score. And that's exactly what Alpha did. And Alpha made it look easy too. Unlike a player like Arju, who you really thought he was in a tight spot some of those times, Alpha 54 made this stuff look easy, man. He was just dominant and on fire. I mean, you put him in an RLCS scenario and it looks like he's just pugging. Alpha 54, just a key member on Vitality, making those plays happen and just being able to shine above every top level competitor in Europe pretty much. And that's why I think he deserved a top 5 spot on the list. And then we move on to number 4. I put JKnaps. Now, JKnaps, I mean, there's a lot to say about JKnaps. He's flashy, he's solid. I put him on for basically the same reasons as I saw Scrub Killer and Arju. I think that Scrub Killer, Arju, and JKnaps all have a great basic level understanding of mechanics, always being able to put themselves in basically the perfect position, as well as being able to pop off every now and then with high level mechanics. The thing that separates JKnaps from, let's say, a Scrub Killa is that JKnaps gets wins at the end of the day. His ability to shine above his opponents, go for insane flip resets. I remember there was this one time during league play, JKnaps had a flip reset air dribble. I think it was during the regional grand finals. It's just JKnaps has that clutch factor, and when his mechanics show up, they always win, and that is honestly what matters. There are just times on G2 during the season when maybe they were against some high level competitors, it looked like JKnaps was the only one really playing. A lot of people think he's the best player on G2, as do I, and he just has the ability to outshine players even when their back is against the ropes. And even when they look like they're going to lose, JKnaps has the ability to really come in clutch with making some insane plays. And that's why I believe he's number 4 in terms of mechanics. And then we get on to the top 3. And coming in at number 3, I put Arsenal from SSG. Now, This was very tough. I think that you can make a case for any player on SSG easily. Easily. Except the main difference is that I think if you look at a player like Sipical, he's mastered basic level mechanics but not high level mechanics. If you look at a player like AXB, I think his basics are very good too, and his high level mechanics, his flashy mechanics are there as well. Maybe they outshine his basics a little bit. You know, that's up for debate. But then when it comes to Arsenal, I think that just all around with raw mechanics, he just, in terms of his high level, his basics, his flashiness, just everything comes together just better than everyone else on SSG. You know, when you watch a player like Arsenal just play Rocket League, he just absolutely dominates. I mean, SSG finished as the #1 seed in North America, and you couldn't replace a single player on that team, but Arsenal was really the one who was feeding the ball to players like AXB and Sipical. I mean, Arsenal was one of the top players in assists for the league, and most of his assists came from basically just completely outplaying his opponents with just slight touches on the ball that just completely confused people, and it was just so fun to watch him with the ball. Arsenal is just one of those players that helps to push the meta of the game. I think that those meta changers, those people that are just on a top level to just like a new top level, like a player that when they play Rocket League, people want to copy them. That's the kind of player Arsenal is, and that's the kind of players that these top three, that the rest of the top three are as well, and which is why I think they deserve to be in the top 3, especially over everyone else. And then we get on to number 2, and a lot of people probably saw this guy on the list, Josh from Drake and Josh. I mean, Atomic from Ghost. What, just another one of those meta changers. The man where you watch him and your mouth just drops. Just the crazy stuff he pulls off. I think Atomic has arguably the second greatest goal in RLCS history. He hit like a flip reset, backflip dunk in regionals. He was just on fire. The man was just nuts. Watching this guy play Rocket League, he makes you feel bad that you can't do what he does, because he makes it look so easy. Just how fluid he is with his mechanics. Atomic basically single-handedly carried his team to a top 4 finish in North America, and anyone will agree with me on that if you just watch the regional championship. I mean, I think it was Jorby. He said a quote which I really like. He said that Atomic went nuclear, and I think that quote fits him perfectly because, I mean, the man is like a bomb. When he goes off, he just destroys everyone on the field. And there's only one player in the world that I think could even rival Atomic in his mechanics when he's on. And I think a lot of people know who that is. The #1 player in the world in terms of raw mechanics. Some people have him as the #1 player in the world just in general. I have Aztral. Come on, man. Come on. This man in regionals hit probably one of the greatest shots ever in Rocket League history. Keeping the ball up at 0 seconds. A triple tap, flip reset off the back, but just come on. So I told you that the top 3 players that I have on this list are kind of like meta changers, people who really push the meta of RLCS. Well, Aztral does this even more. Aztral, just everything that he does. Aztral invented new ways to hit the ball this last season of RLCS. He got touches on the ball that you just never thought were possible. Watching Aztral, you wouldn't think he's about to do something, and then all of a sudden he would get this crazy, impossible touch or flip reset and just completely destroy any team. Doesn't matter who it was, whether it was Vitality or if it was the lowest or if it was whoever it was. Aztral shined above everyone, and he did it with his mechanics. And I don't think there's a single person in the world who would disagree with my #1 choice, because I think Aztral is just above the rest with mechanics, just in every way. He's just, if Aztral continues to play the way he is right now and has last season, he will go down in history as one of the greatest Rocket League players to ever live, is if he can continue just this dominating performance day in and day out like he has been. And I truly believe that Aztral has the potential to be one of the greatest. Yep. And then at the real #1, we have Cherry.
Cherry _Z. The best Rocket League player ever.
Ranked S triple plus.
So yeah, that is my top 10 list. That is just who I think right now in terms of mechanics are the best. And it was hard for me to put Scrub Killa on there because he's not actually in RLCS right now. But I think he still counts. I think a lot of people would still say Scrub Killa counts as an RLCS player because he's more likely than not going to get picked up. So I don't think anyone would argue with me having him on there. But I can also see some people maybe changing up the order of this list, maybe adding 1 or 2 people on. I know AXB is a huge contender, and a lot of people would throw KDOP on there because, you know, when making this list, I wanted to combine basic level with high level mechanics, but I think that KDOP, in terms of just his basic level mechanics alone, they're just so high, and he's mastered them so much that he could have easily made it on here with basic level mechanics alone, even though KDOP really doesn't have the greatest high level mechanics, because that's just not what he's about. That's not what Fairy Peak is about. You know, those players and Violent Panda, they're more about just positioning themselves well. But I think that maybe those players have such a mastery of that one part of mechanics that they could have, maybe you could argue that they're on this list as well, but I really wanted to encapsulate everything that mechanics were about and who was able to pull off everything that mechanics had to offer at the RLCS level. And that's really what I was going for with this list, which is why maybe you don't see a KDOP on here. Which you obviously could argue that he's on here. I mean, KDOP's probably the best player in the world right now. But yeah, that's my list. Let me know what you guys think. I really wanted to make this one because I thought this was a fun one to make. Another one that I really want to make, maybe in a week or two, is just the best player on each team. So it wouldn't be a top 10. It would be a best player on each RLCS team, North America and Europe. Let me know if you guys want to see that. I think that would be a cool one to make too. Although that one's a little easier. You just kind of got to watch RLCS and you know, basically. But it would definitely be a different list. More people. I would make sure to get every team on there. There'd be 20 teams. Yeah, so there'd be 20 players. But yeah, that's everything. I hope you guys did enjoy. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.